My wife finally became the heir to the Sterling family fortune. And just like that, I was met with endless contempt. All because I had no claim to my own family's empire. I swallowed the humiliation, playing the part of the devoted, clueless husband. It wasn't until I had completely devoured Sterling Enterprises that Victoria finally understood fear. She knelt before me, begging me to spare her. I just smiled. The ocean is beautiful, perfect for a family retreat to find some peace. Goodbye, my dear wife. I was in a dimly lit bar, my arm around a blonde I kept on retainer, when a man crashed our evening. He stormed up to our booth, his face a storm cloud of fury, accusing me of being a moral degenerate for getting between him and his girlfriend. I looked at Chloe, my blonde for the evening, with genuine confusion. I thought you were single. Chloe looked just as annoyed, turning to the kid and slapping him hard across the face. Get lost, you psycho. It turned out the girlfriend he was talking about wasn't Chloe. It was my wife. What a mess. I smirked and had my bodyguards make the young man kneel for the rest of the night. Thanks so much for looking after my wife. I tell him, my apologies. She's just so promiscuous. I can never keep track of all the stray she picks up. But don't worry, I'll have a word with her. We'll make sure you all have plenty of dog food. And remember, next time, keep your leash on. I looked down at the wrinkles on my suit jacket, creased from his frantic entrance. A flicker of real anger sparked in me. Were my bodyguards completely useless? If Chloe hadn't slapped him away, he might have actually gotten my suit dirty. Chloe was already fussing over me, trying to smooth out the fabric. I held up a hand to stop her, then slowly lifted my head, my gaze turning ice cold as I looked at the intruder. The boy toy was handsome. I'll give him that, his face flushed with righteous anger. He was wearing a clean, crisp shirt and jeans, radiating a youthful energy that screamed fresh out of college. You bastard, he seethed, his eyes blazing. Not only are you stringing Victoria along, but you're messing around with this woman too. You're nothing but a scumbag. If my security hadn't been so quick, I'm sure he would have tried to take a swing at me. I leaned back against the plush leather of the booth, finding a more comfortable position. So, he was here for Victoria. I took a sip of my whiskey and spoke calmly. Victoria Sterling? And what's your relationship to her? The young man took a step forward, then froze, clearly intimidated by the hulking figures of my bodyguards. Still, his eyes dripped with scorn. I'm her boyfriend. I've already proposed to her, so I want you, the other man, to back off. Don't think you can do whatever you want just because you have a little money. Victoria would never love someone like you. Hasn't anyone ever told you? Homewreckers never get a happy ending. His constant stream of insults was ruining my buzz. I beckoned to one of the bodyguards. I don't like the way he's talking down to me. My security team was on edge. They knew they'd screwed up by letting him get close enough to wrinkle my suit. Now, seeing a chance to redeem themselves, they didn't hesitate. A swift kick to the back of his knees sent him crashing to the floor, where they held him firmly in a kneeling position. Without my word, he would spend the rest of the night speaking to me from the ground. I smiled, stood up, and walked over to him. What are you doing? He asked, a flicker of fear in his eyes. I just patted his shoulder. Don't be scared. Let's talk. How do you know who I am? His face was a mask of humiliation, but his eyes still held a spark of defiance. I like that. I saw you. You and her holding hands, going into that restaurant. I've seen plenty of scumbags like you, he spat, throwing your money around to pick up young women, not caring if they already have a boyfriend. We were about to get married. It's all because of you. You're going to get what's coming to you. He spoke with such conviction, as if he expected divine retribution to strike me down at any moment. I started to piece it together. It must have been a week ago, a joint family gathering where Victoria and I had to play the part of a loving couple. He must have seen us then. I couldn't help it. I started to laugh. Had this kid been dropped on his head, or was he just born this stupid? When I finally caught my breath, I returned to the booth and accepted a piece of fruit Chloe fed me. Oh, so you two were about to get married, and I'm the one who broke it up? Is that it? You know, I suggest you spend your time on your knees here thinking, do you really know Victoria Sterling? Because as far as I know, Victoria can't possibly have a fiancé. Seeing the kid about to argue, I simply held out my hand. She's married, has been for 3 years. I leaned forward, schooling my voice into a tone of mock sincere advice. I've seen plenty of pathetic guys like you, using your good looks to leech off wealthy women, not caring one bit if they're married or not. Let me give you a piece of advice. A lot of these rich women are into some twisted stuff. Whips, candles. They might even use their cigars to burn you. You better watch out, or that pretty body of yours won't last. The kid couldn't process it. He'd come here, after all, on a righteous crusade to confront the other man. I had my assistant toss a stack of cash on the floor in front of him. Thanks so much for looking after my wife. My apologies. She's just so promiscuous. I can never keep track of how many strays she has. But don't worry, I'll have a word with her. We'll make sure you all have plenty of dog food. And remember, I added, my voice dropping, next time keep your leash on. I waved a hand, and the bodyguards, taking the hint, dragged him to a different corner of the bar to continue his penance. Around midnight, the door to my penthouse swung open. I had just finished a workout with Chloe and was resting. I looked up, surprised to see Victoria Sterling walk in. Since she'd become the Sterling family heir a year ago, we'd barely spent a night under the same roof. We both had keys to each other's places, but only for appearances, for those times we needed to put on show. Victoria's face was dark. Ethan, we need to talk. I clicked my tongue in annoyance. What a buzzkill. I was just about to go for another round. What? Feeling sorry for your boy toy? I asked. She paused, then sighed, walking over to me. I'm sorry. I didn't know Cody would come and make a scene. I poured myself a glass of red wine and poured one for her too. Whatever else we were, we could at least share a drink. Keep your dog on a leash. Next time it happens, you can look for him in a block of cement at the bottom of the Chicago River. Victoria was silent. I didn't rush her. We locked eyes for a few seconds before she looked away. Fine, but you should also recognize your place. You're nothing right now. It's best not to make things too ugly. She stood up, ready to leave, but then turned back and walked right up to me. Under the soft lighting, Victoria's face was undeniably beautiful. I just never loved it. She spoke softly. Ethan, don't touch him, or we get a divorce. And don't forget, you're just the cast-off son of the Hayes family. This won't do you any good. I couldn't resist a sneer. What's this? Did you actually catch feelings for this one? She watched me silently, her tone softening for once. No, but you know we don't have feelings for each other. The way things are now is fine. Don't worry. I'll make sure he never shows his face to you again. A cold smile touched my lips. So, the Ice Queen could be gentle. How novel. Not that I cared. Good. Remember what you said. Make sure he never appears in front of me again. Then came the time for another mandatory visit to the Sterlings. These days were always the worst form of torture for me. I had to suppress my disgust and play the loving husband to Victoria. Once it was over, we'd go our separate ways, back to our separate homes and our separate pets. This week, we were back at the Sterling estate. After dinner, her mother looked at Victoria with a beaming smile. Victoria, darling, you two have been married for 3 years now. Isn't it time to start thinking about a child? I said nothing, unsure how to respond. It wasn't the first time her parents had brought it up. Over the past year, while we'd both been playing around, we'd at least kept up appearances. Her family obviously knew the real situation. This tired old topic was just their way of saying the Sterling family needed a future heir. As long as the child was Victoria's, it was fine. Whether it was mine or not was irrelevant. I was trying to figure out what to say when, to my surprise, Victoria spoke up, a blush on her cheeks. Mom, we're already expecting. We came here tonight to tell you. You don't have to worry anymore. As Victoria's parents turned their hopeful gazes to me, I had no choice but to smile and nod. Inside, however, a storm was raging. We had no feelings for each other. In fact, you could say we mutually disliked one another. We had an agreement. We could play around on the side, but bringing an illegitimate child into the picture, especially so publicly, was forbidden. What was this? Was she expecting me to play the happy father? I forced my way through the rest of the meal, then stood up, ready to leave. My expression must have been dark, because Victoria's parents seemed to guess why. Even so, they put on a concerned act. Ethan, is something wrong? Talk to us. Tell us what's on your mind. I forced a smile and said nothing. All the while, Victoria watched with that same infuriating, knowing smirk, completely unconcerned. It's nothing, Mom, she chimed in. Ethan's just worried about my health. Her mother gave a strained laugh and patted my hand. Ethan, we spoiled Victoria rotten growing up. If you ever feel wronged, you must tell us. I nodded. Don't worry, Mrs. Sterling. I have some urgent business at the office to take care of. I have to go. Before they could say another word, I grabbed my coat and left. I didn't care what happened next. I spent the entire night sitting in my study. I was waiting for Victoria's explanation. But she never contacted me. Not a call, not even a single text message. So, she really didn't give a damn about me. Fine. In that case, I'll send your happy little family of 3, no 5, on a trip. After all, there's plenty of room down below. I've saved you all spots. It's best if you go down together, so you can keep each other company. Wouldn't want you to be lonely. At some point, I must have drifted off. When I woke up, my whole body ached, and my mood was foul. After some thought, I decided to give myself the day off. What to do? Fishing. Away from people, quiet and serene. Revenge is a dish best served cold, and I like to plan it alone, without interruptions. Besides, when someone shoves their disrespect in your face, do they really expect you to just take it? I was squatting by the lakefront, enjoying the attentive service of my girl, Chloe. I brought all the best gear. When you have money, you should enjoy it. Before I even got a bite, Cody showed up. He didn't even make it 10 feet before my bodyguards had him pinned to the ground. Good. These guys knew how to learn from their mistakes. The pay cut I gave them 2 days ago was clearly effective. Didn't your sugar mama tell you to stay out of my sight? I looked at him, my face a mask of ridicule. Honestly, in my eyes, this kind of reckless social climbing was just plain stupid. Why not just enjoy the ride, take the money when it's over, and walk away? The world of the super rich isn't an easy one to navigate. The backstabbing and climbing over bodies is relentless. The methods are brutal. But Cody acted as if he had no fear. He wasn't struggling, just looking at me with a triumphant smirk. Victoria's pregnant. You know that, right? I laughed. Of course I know. A bastard child whose father could be anyone. I'll take her to get rid of it in a few days. Don't want to interrupt your sweet romance. Just make sure you take good care of her during her recovery. How boring. A few simple words, and he completely lost his temper. I couldn't tell if my words were too poisonous or if his tolerance was just that low. You dare. That's my child with Victoria. I watched him with an unhurried, mocking expression. Of course, I was just messing with him. I'd had my assistant look into it last night. For the past 6 months, Victoria had only been with this one man. Oh, still a bastard then? Cody snorted. You have no idea how much Victoria loves me. We've been together this whole time. Has she even come home to you once? Do you know what she told me? She said the sight of you makes her sick. This baby is the ultimate proof. Victoria said she is absolutely going to have this child. Besides, he added with a sneer, what right do you have to say anything? You're just a kept man living off her. I shrugged, indifferent. Was he trying to tell me a love story? I couldn't help but mock him. I thought you hated homewreckers. Now that you know you're the other man, why so proud? Maybe she does love you. So what? As long as I don't want it to happen. You two have no future. And that includes the bastard. My taunts didn't seem to faze Cody at all. He seemed incredibly confident. Ethan Hayes, don't think you're so great just because you have a little money. Victoria doesn't love you. In fact, she hates you. Yours was a business marriage. You're barely better than a freeloader. You have no right to choose anything. If you know what's good for you, you'll divorce her yourself. Otherwise, you'll be raising my child for me. I lit a cigarette. Through the faint haze of smoke, I looked at his foolish face and smiled. He really was adorably stupid. Did he think latching onto Victoria's sterling meant he'd won the lottery? After 3 years of marriage, I was long past tired of the Sterling family. And 3 years was more than enough time for me to set my board. Raise your child? Are you worthy? Cody, if I were you, I'd get on my knees right now and bow 100 times, praying you'll still be able to enjoy a good meal for the rest of your life. In Victoria's eyes, the only thing that makes you better than a dog is that you can speak. Cody was livid. Young people, I suppose, always think everyone is equal under the law. Ethan Hayes, don't be so arrogant. You can't just do whatever you want in Chicago. He'd cracked already. So boring. I lost interest in toying with him. Ignoring him, I gave a quiet order to my bodyguards. Last time, he didn't kneel long enough to learn his lesson. Make him kneel until tomorrow morning. If he moves, slap him. My bodyguards were nothing if not efficient. Despite Cody's screams and struggles, they delivered a few dozen hard slaps to his face, swelling his mouth shut. That finally reminded him that we were out in the open, and screaming wasn't going to summon the police. Victoria and I had known each other since childhood. Our families weren't close, just cordial. 3 years ago, both families had their eye on a major development project that was too big for either to handle alone. They needed to join forces, and so we were married. In the beginning, things were actually quite harmonious. It was a business arrangement, after all. At that time, neither of us dared to risk fracturing the alliance between our two families. The losses would have been catastrophic for both of us. For 2 whole years, we played our parts. We were both ambitious, but we knew our ambitions were difficult to realize. I had a ruthless older brother above me, and she had a brilliant, calculating brother of her own. The change came a year ago. Victoria's brother was in a car accident. His wife and child were killed on impact. He was left in a vegetative state. Sterling Enterprises had instantly lost its most capable heir. Old man Sterling was forced out of retirement to steady the ship, and at the same time, he began grooming Victoria to take over. Suddenly hit by a mountain of gold, Victoria was no longer the little woman sacrificed for a business merger. She transformed overnight into the sole, highly sought-after heir to Sterling Enterprises in Chicago. From then on, our relationship grew. Delicate. In her eyes, I the second son of the Hayes family with no inheritance rights, was probably only useful as a link to Hayes Corporation. And of course, the handsome young assistants at her side began to change, one after another. Faced with this, I said nothing. In the eyes of the world, I became the ultimate cuckold. I knew that without power, anything I said or did would be wrong. Truth, in this world, has always belonged to the one with the biggest fist. Perhaps because the Sterlings still needed the support of the Hayes family, Victoria came to me to negotiate. Ethan, our positions have changed, but you will always be my husband. If you feel it's unfair, you can also go out and have some fun. Just don't get anyone pregnant. I nodded, and I kept my word. For a year, we coexisted in a state of mutual, unspoken agreement. Her assistants came and went. My stable of blondes grew and changed. In public, we were the picture of a loving couple. In private, we never even spent a night in the same house. Gradually, Victoria's attitude towards me became nothing more than the affection she faked for an audience. But I never expected she would let her pet break the rules of the game. Not only did she allow this creature to posture in front of me, she was even planning to make me the proud father. If that's the case, then my 3 years of preparation were certainly not in vain. I have no idea how Victoria will react when she finds out. The fishing trip was ruined. I turned, took Chloe by the hand, and got back in the car. Looking at the starlight ceiling and the beautiful woman beside me, my back felt a little sore. I was deeply annoyed. I rubbed my nose, slightly embarrassed. I've been tutoring Chloe a bit too frequently lately. Driving back from the lakefront, I looked at the clouds in the sky, and for some reason, my mind drifted back to 3 years ago. I had just returned from studying abroad when my family dragged me to a cocktail party to arrange my marriage. They didn't allow for any objections, simply orchestrating the entire thing. I didn't fight it. There was no point. My brother's reaction was coolly detached. It's exactly what you think it is, he'd said. The Hayes family needs to merge with the Sterlings. You can accept it, or you cannot accept it, but you will accept it. Who told you not to work harder? You didn't earn the right to inherit. His words were casual, but in that moment, my heart sank into complete despair. I sat alone that night, all night. I've never been one to take a loss lying down. But I have one advantage over others: patience. Perhaps it's because I've known since I was a child that I would never be the heir to the Hayes family. My brother is 5 years older, his temperament steady and solid. No matter what, I could never compare. So, I had no choice but to hide my restless heart. Using the Hayes family's resources as a cover, I began plotting how to swallow the Sterling family whole. To others, it would seem like an ant trying to swallow an elephant. But the reality was that the Hayes and Sterling families had always been superficially friendly, while secretly at odds. There was much I could use, especially later, when the Sterlings lost their best heir. Victoria was competent, but she lacked finesse. My brother feared me. He feared I would usurp his power. But this time he would help me, because it would bring an enormous profit to the Hayes family, and he would get a free attack dog to do the dirty work. Since that was the case, I was more than willing to play the fool. The next day, my brother and I had a long talk. The outcome was very pleasant. Brother, I told him, I'm not content with my situation. I want the Sterlings. He just chuckled softly. Then, he patiently instructed me. You're too weak right now, and your position as the husband-in-law means the Sterlings will never trust you. Not even Victoria will trust you. If you want their family, they can't be too united internally. At the very least, you need to stir up Victoria's ambition. The Hayes family will be your strongest backer. You should know what to do. I nodded, and we discussed the details further. In the years that followed, Victoria and I were a model of mutual respect, at least on the surface. No matter how far she went, I endured it. And under my relentless, subtle encouragement, Victoria's ambition finally became too great to contain. After she became the sole heir, I continued to play the part of the devoted, whipped husband. One of her previous boy toys, a model, had even caused a scene in front of me, just like Cody. I didn't say a word and continued to treat Victoria with the same gentle affection. That man was later found drowned in the river. From then on, Victoria strictly forbade her young assistants from ever appearing before me. I also began to execute my own plan, silently infiltrating Sterling Enterprises. And so, she lived her wild life, blissfully unaware, quickly growing bored of one boy toy after another. Until she met Cody. According to my assistant's investigation, they had been together for nearly 6 months. I didn't care what she did on the side, but she was absolutely forbidden from flaunting it in my face. A warning should have been enough. Now, she had to die. The Sterling family had to fall. Victoria dragged a stiff-legged Cody back to her mansion, her face a thunderous mask. Victoria, slow down, my legs are killing me. This time, Victoria didn't coddle him. She spun around and slapped him across the face. Didn't I tell you not to make a scene in front of him? Do you think my words are just wind? Cody was naturally flustered. Victoria had explained the situation to him. The Sterling and Hayes families had a business partnership. They couldn't just turn on each other. His little stunt was nothing more than a desperate play for status. He never imagined that the woman who was so loving just a day ago could now look so terrifying. But those who make a living as the third person in a relationship are nothing if not adaptable. Cody dropped to his knees with a thud. Victoria, I was wrong. I just couldn't stand the thought of our child calling another man daddy. That's why I did something so stupid. Victoria wasn't buying it. Women raised in powerful families are never easily fooled. I'm asking you what you said to him. Ethan isn't one to lose his temper easily. Don't say I didn't warn you. The people who cross him don't end up well. Now Cody was truly scared. I just told him if he didn't divorce you, he'd be stuck raising our kid his whole life. But he was completely unreasonable. He even threatened me. He said the only thing that makes me better than a dog is that I can speak. The words were barely out of his mouth before a dozen more slaps landed on his face, followed by Victoria's cold, merciless voice. Ethan was right. You need to learn your place. This child belongs to the Sterling family, and will have the Sterling name. Did you really think just because you can knock a woman up, you hold all the cards? The only reason I kept you around this long is because you're handsome and you do what you're told. But your intelligence is truly pathetic. It's making me reconsider whether I even want this child. Cody was stunned. He had assumed that a woman willing to bear his child must love him to the core. How could this be happening? The situation had spiraled far beyond the comprehension of his simple mind. He crawled forward on his knees. No, Victoria, I can't live without you. I love you. He didn't even finish before another series of heavy slaps struck his face. Love? How much is love worth? I like to play around, and I would never have a child with Ethan. But my child will be a Sterling, not yours. Now, Cody finally understood. He was just a sperm donor, a tool for pleasure. Things like love and affection were worthless in the battles of the rich and powerful. Victoria, I know I was wrong. I'll do whatever you say from now on. Please don't be angry. You're pregnant. You can't let yourself get worked up. Hearing this, much of Victoria's anger subsided. She was ambitious, just like me. Otherwise, my manipulations wouldn't have worked so easily. As for why she wouldn't have a child with me, besides her free-spirited nature, she didn't want to be tied to the Hayes family's war machine. Not when I wasn't the heir. That's just how it is. If you have no power, even dogs will look down on you. Victoria sat down on the sofa, closing her eyes and enjoying the services Cody began to provide. Stay away from Ethan Hayes from now on. Be a good boy. As long as this child exists, I'll make sure you have more money than you can spend for the rest of your life. Otherwise, I really won't be bothered to look for you, whether you turn up in the river or in a block of cement. Cody didn't dare say another word, nodding eagerly in agreement. Sitting in my office, I listened intently to my assistant's report. 3 years ago, I already knew how the Sterling family viewed this marriage. I knew that Victoria and I were just pawns. She had just made her move a little earlier than I expected. I never imagined my role would be the patient predator, waiting in the wings. Her plan was simple. Get rid of her brother, and the Sterling family fortune would naturally be hers. As for me, it was best if I was content playing the cuckold. So, when did I start laying my own groundwork? 3 years ago, by pure chance, I overheard a conversation between Victoria's father and her brother. Have Victoria keep a tight grip on Ethan Hayes, her father had said. He'll be a useful piece later. If we play it right, we might even be able to swallow the Hayes family. Victoria's brother had laughed confidently. Don't worry, father. Ethan won't escape my grasp. After this project is done, I'll approach the Walsh and Donovan families and find an opportunity to move against the Hayeses together. Once Hayes Corporation is on the ropes, I'll have the Hayes family transfer a portion of their stock to Ethan. Then, those shares will be in Victoria's control, and the Hayes family will no longer be our rival. Because I knew about this in advance, my brother was prepared. He skillfully defused the crisis. After that, the relationship between our two families became nothing more than a thin veneer of politeness. I, in turn, registered an offshore company. Using inside information from the Hayes family, my company grew strong fast. I had my people buy off numerous mid-level managers at Sterling Enterprises. With the power of money and the backing of Hayes Corp., it wasn't long before many of their employees were collecting 2 paychecks. I even created a special department solely dedicated to gathering and analyzing intelligence on Sterling Enterprises. This department scored major victories, snatching away numerous contracts that should have gone to them. You could say that my offshore company was the reason Sterling Enterprises was mysteriously losing so much business. While this didn't fatally wound them, it certainly made a handsome profit for Hayes Corporation. And by extension, my own company grew and thrived. Although it wasn't yet strong enough to go head-to-head with Sterling Enterprises, with the full support of Hayes Corp, the ant swallowing the elephant wasn't an impossible feat. Once Victoria had calmed down, she rushed to find me. The moment she saw me, she let out a sigh of relief. In her grand plan, I was a crucial piece of the puzzle. It wasn't just about putting horns on my head. She planned to provoke me, or rather, to provoke Hayes Corporation into attacking Sterling Enterprises so she could profit from the chaos. She believed that, in my current position, turning on her would be completely against my own interests. What she didn't know was that I had already seen through it all. This time, her so-called scheme would be the final curtain call for Sterling Enterprises. I sat on the sofa, coldly observing Victoria as she sat across from me. A rare trace of guilt appeared on her face. "Ethan, I know the baby makes things difficult for you, but I want to have this child. What kind of compensation do you want?" I stared at her, my voice as frigid as a Siberian wind. "What? Do you think I look like the kind of man who's happy to raise another man's child? Don't forget our agreement. We play on the side, but the one condition was no pregnancies." She was taken aback, but forced herself to remain calm. "Ethan, that's not what I meant. You can have a child too, if you want. Publicly, they'll just have our respective family names. Are you satisfied with that?" Her eyes were filled with calculation. Yes, she had planned it all. She knew I wouldn't easily give up everything I had. She expected me to bite off a huge chunk to secure the biggest possible benefit for myself. But that was exactly what she wanted to see. She didn't just want the Sterling family. She wanted the Hayes family too. And I was her perfect pawn. She was certain of it, because without her help, I could never hope to become the heir of Hayes Corporation. What a pity. My target was never Hayes Corp. I looked at her with a mocking smile. "Let's get a divorce. We'll file the papers tomorrow." She shot to her feet, glaring at me furiously. "Ethan Hayes, don't be an idiot. You can't legally divorce a pregnant woman, and I'm not getting an amniocentesis. If you want a shot at Hayes Corp, you'll do what I say." I tilted my head back to look up at her, my voice devoid of any warmth. "A divorce. Tomorrow. Don't forget, I have more than enough proof that this child isn't mine. And furthermore, Hayes Corporation will be canceling its partnership with Sterling Enterprises. Of course, I had no intention of actually getting a divorce. But I wasn't going to miss out on a single cent of profit. When money is served to you on a platter, it would be a crime not to take it." Victoria's tone softened. "Ethan, we had an agreement. Why are you backing out now?" I slowly stood up, staring her down. "Victoria, don't you forget, I never allow your dogs to parade themselves in front of me. And another thing, you announced to your family that this child is mine. I don't want to accept that. Is that a problem?" Now, my preparations were complete. All I needed was an opportunity. An opportunity she was about to hand to me herself. She would never give up on her ambition to control Hayes Corp. As expected, she relented. "What do you want?" I opened my briefcase and handed her an agreement. "The new project your company just acquired. You're not going to refuse, are you?" She gave a self-deprecating laugh and, with a heavy heart, signed her name. "Ethan Hayes, you really know how to pick your moments. You win." Looking at her signature, I couldn't tell if I felt sorrow or joy. If my own love life was destined to be a tragedy, then let the storm rage even more fiercely. After signing the agreement, Victoria left. She gave me a long, meaningful look before she walked out the door. I just smiled and said nothing. I had been patient for 3 years. A few more moments wouldn't make a difference. In any case, there was absolutely no way I would ever allow myself to meet that bastard child. Every humiliation I had endured over these years would be returned in full. I picked up my phone and sent a message to my assistant. Very quickly, the news of the project's no-cost transfer caused a massive uproar. With a push from Hayes Corp, rumors soon exploded that Sterling Enterprises was in financial trouble. I heard Victoria flew into a rage, turning her office into something resembling a war zone. Forced into a corner, she had no choice but to release a statement on their financial situation. The entire Sterling Enterprise was running a deficit of $3 billion. A deficit that had never been disclosed in their annual financial reports. Once the banks downgraded Sterling Enterprises' credit rating, the collapse was imminent. "Ethan Hayes, this was all you, wasn't it?" Across from me in my office, Victoria stared at me, her eyes burning holes through me. She wasn't stupid. On the contrary, she was very smart. From the moment things began to spiral out of control, she knew there was a hidden hand guiding it all, someone who knew her intimately. She just didn't know how I had done it. I shook my head and poured her a cup of tea. If I said it wasn't me, Would you believe it? She shook her head. Her expression was certain. You've been planning this for a long time, haven't you? And all this time, what you wanted was never Hayes Corp. It was Sterling. Am I right? This woman truly was sharp. Since she'd figured it out, I saw no reason to continue the act. 3 years as the devoted husband, 1 year as the ultimate doormat. I was so tired of playing the part. That's right. It was me, or rather us. Hayes Corporation. From the very beginning, the only thing I ever wanted was Sterling Enterprises. Hearing the truth, Victoria bit her lip so hard it could have drawn blood. The situation was now critical. Sterling Enterprises was at the end of its rope. Over the past year, spurred on by Victoria's ambition, the company had expanded at a breakneck pace. On the surface, it looked like a golden age of growth. In reality, it was bloated with bad assets. The expansion had completely disregarded whether they had the capital, technology, or management capabilities to handle those new sectors. All of this had left Sterling Enterprises on a high-risk financial foundation. The only one who could save them now was Hayes Corporation. If Hayes Corp buried the damaging evidence, let Victoria's PR team work their magic, and injected a large sum of capital, the crisis would be solved. I understood this. And so did Victoria. Ethan, I can get rid of the baby. I'll sell 10% of Sterling Enterprises stock to Hayes Corp. In exchange, I need your help. From now on, Sterling Enterprises will be the strongest ally of Hayes Corp. And I will be your most loyal wife. We'll have our own children. As for lovers, that will be up to you. As she spoke, a seductive smile played on her lips. I can only scoff at it. Victoria, are you dreaming? Wouldn't merging Sterling directly into Hayes be a better outcome? A wife? Do you think I would feel safe sharing a bed every night with a woman who would plot against her own brother? As the words left my mouth, the color drained from Victoria's face. Realizing that begging me was useless, she stood up, looking utterly defeated, and walked towards the door. Under the relentless assault of Hayes Corporation, Sterling Enterprises was stretched to its breaking point. When its stock price fell below the initial offering price, the Hayes family began to buy up everything they could at rock-bottom prices. In just 1 month, Sterling Enterprises was completely devoured. The reason it went so smoothly was not only because Sterling was riddled with Hayes family informants, but more importantly, because Victoria had completely abandoned all resistance, trying instead to quickly transfer her assets and flee. When the acquisition was finalized, my brother and I sat facing each other. Little brother, he began in a slow, measured tone, his eyes fixed on the clouds outside the window. What do you want to do next? I knew that if my answer was wrong, or if I failed to make my intentions crystal clear, I would be the next Sterling family. I chuckled softly. I took a folder from my briefcase and passed it to him. Brother, this is 30% of Sterling Enterprises stock. We're family. There's no need for us to fall out over a little profit. I paused, seeing no displeasure on his face. Only then did I continue. The old Sterling Enterprises will become the new Hayes East. Brother, you wouldn't refuse to let me be its chairman, would you? Looking at the stock transfer agreement, my brother smiled with satisfaction. Very good. From now on, keep things clean. The next time I saw Victoria was a month later. She had taken her entire family, along with the $1 billion she'd scraped together from selling her assets, and fled overseas. That day, they had just moved into their newly purchased villa when they suddenly felt an overwhelming drowsiness. When they woke up, their hands and feet were bound to the railing of a yacht. The whole family, all neat and tidy. Victoria's parents, Cody, no one was missing. I noticed her belly was just beginning to show. I chuckled softly, looking at the groggy group, and went back to resting my eyes. We were in international waters. They had no official exit records. In other words, they were now officially missing persons. But the Sterling family was not as calm as I was. Especially Cody. The moment he woke up, he started screaming and begging for his life. Mr. Hayes, I was wrong. It was all that bitch Victoria. She forced me to do everything. I was just a tool. Please, I'm begging you, let me go. If the bodyguard hadn't tied him so tightly, he'd probably be on the floor banging his head. I despised this kind of spineless, self-important fool. Did he really think he had a way out of this? Where did he think he was? International waters. If he made it back alive, I'd be the one in trouble. I gave a bodyguard a subtle look. A few quick slaps, and Cody's face swelled up. These guards were old acquaintances of his. This was, after all, the 3rd time they'd had to discipline him. This time, Cody didn't dare beg anymore. The rest of the Sterling family fell silent as well. Finally, it was Victoria who was pushed forward to speak. Ethan, Sterling Enterprises belongs to you now. Aren't you satisfied? I'm a stray dog now. I'll never appear in your life again. If you need those divorce papers, I'll sign them, I promise. Please let us go. Whatever your conditions are, I'll agree to them. Please. As she spoke, the head that Victoria had held high for 3 years finally bowed. She struggled to her knees and began to kowtow again and again. Soon, blood trickled from her forehead. A strange, mocking smile curved my lips. I waved my hand dismissively. Victoria, you overestimate yourself. Once you disappear, I'll naturally be a free man. I pointed towards the side of the yacht. Choose one. The Sterlings finally realized what I intended to do, and they began to struggle even more violently. Ethan, this is a crime. You can't do this. Our dear son-in-law, we never treated you poorly. Watching their pathetic display, my last shred of patience evaporated. I tapped my finger lightly on the armrest, silencing the cacophony. Your Sterling family is truly shameless. My wife gets a taste of power and suddenly can't control her desires. 10 assistants in just 1 short year. And don't even start with the dear son-in-law crap. In your eyes, I was never anything more than a pawn to be used against the Hayes family. Now choose quickly. I'm waiting to see what sharks look like up close. If you don't choose, you all go in together. My bodyguards were brutally efficient, shoving the family towards the edge of the deck. They shrieked in terror. Wait, we'll choose. I turned my mocking gaze to Cody. Perhaps it was a meeting of minds because he was staring back at me, his face pale, his eyes filled with a desperate plea. Victoria gritted her teeth, agonizing for a moment before she finally spoke. Choose Cody. Hearing the answer I fully expected, Cody's face turned an even paler shade of white. I laughed coldly. Since a choice had been made, there was no need to delay my entertainment. A bodyguard swiftly sliced several deep cuts into Cody's legs. As the blood dripped into the water, a few dorsal fins began to slice through the surface of the ocean. Ignoring Cody's terrified screams, they threw him overboard. The sight sent the remaining Sterlings into a new wave of panic. A demonic smile spread across my face. Ladies and gentlemen, your turn. Soon, their figures vanished from the deck. When the surface of the ocean was calm once more, I poured myself a glass of red wine, my mood light and pleasant. Using a few pieces of trash to improve the marine food chain. You could call it recycling.